It started on a Tuesday because betrayal doesn't need a dramatic entrance. It doesn't wait for anniversaries or birthday dinners. Sometimes it just walks in wearing aviators and carrying an iced coffee, asking you if the mail came today. That was her. Cool, casual, empty. We were supposed to go to my brother's engagement dinner that night. She said she wasn't feeling well. Something I ate, she mumbled, tapping on her phone like it was giving her oxygen. I told her I'd stay. She told me not to. It was too quick. She didn't even blink between the sentence and the fake cough. She used to look at me when she lied. That's how I knew she hadn't been lying for long. But now, her eyes didn't even flicker. I went to the dinner. I barely ate. I left early. But I didn't go home. I don't know what told me to circle back. Call it instinct. Call it madness. All I know is that I took the long way home. And when I passed her gym, I noticed the parking lot wasn't empty. Her car was there. Lights off. Hidden behind the side dumpster like it was ducking from a camera. I parked across the street. I sat for 5 minutes, then 10. I got out. Walked across like a ghost. There was no music coming from the gym, no motion through the glass doors. It was locked. Then I saw the side entrance. Slightly open. My pulse turned to noise. I didn't walk in like a movie scene. I didn't burst through with a speech in my throat. I just entered. Quiet. Controlled. And that's when I saw him. He was standing there. Just him. Alone. By the lockers. Wiping his face with a towel like he just finished a marathon. Big guy. Tattoos. That kind of confident posture you don't earn in a day. He looked up at me like he recognized me. Let me guess, he said, smirking. You're the husband. I didn't answer. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. She said you were soft, he added. Didn't think you'd actually come looking. Still, I didn't speak. I looked around. No sign of her. No sound except his breathing. You want the truth? He asked, tossing the towel into a bin. She ran back to her old flame. That's me. She told me everything. I didn't even have to chase her. She called me. He walked up like he was about to shake my hand. Look, man. She was mine before she was yours. You knew what you signed up for. Then he said the words I haven't stopped hearing since. She told me you couldn't keep her. Said you were too scared to even confront her. I stepped forward, and I don't know what he saw in my eyes, but his grin cracked a little. I'm a BJJ brown belt, he added, trying to hold on to whatever threat he thought that was. You don't want to do this, but I already had. It didn't last long. He was strong. But technique only works when you're calm, when your opponent doesn't fight like he's trying to kill the version of himself that let this happen. When I had him on the floor, arm pinned, throat tight under pressure, he wheezed out one more thing. She said you'd never find out. Then I let go. Not because I was finished, because I wanted her to see him broken first. And that's when the side door opened again. She stepped in, holding her phone, her gym bag over her shoulder. Sunglasses still on inside like this was some vacation she didn't want interrupted. She looked from me to him, blinked, then, like she just realized who was in the room, said the words that will never leave my bones. What the hell are you doing here? She said it like I was the one cheating, like I'd crashed some private club meeting where she and this clown held spiritual rituals over pre-workout shakes. I stood there, staring at her, chest heaving, not because I was out of breath, but because I hadn't let myself feel anything yet. My adrenaline had been too busy keeping me alive. What the hell am I doing here? I repeated. You want to try again with a different tone? She rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. Like I was the inconvenience. Like I was a broken vacuum she forgot to throw out. Jesus, she muttered. I knew you'd overreact. He was still on the floor, coughing, wiping spit off his chin like I just ruined his night at the club. She didn't even check on him. Just tossed her bag onto a bench and leaned against the lockers, arms crossed. I told you not to come tonight, she said. I told you I wasn't feeling well. You were never sick, I said. You're not even trying to lie anymore, she scoffed. Because you already know. So why pretend? That line, right there, unzipped something inside me. She said it like I should be proud she wasn't hiding it. Like honesty in betrayal earns points. Like the scoreboard resets if you just say it plain. I gave you everything, I said quietly. All of it. My time. My energy. My patience. Do you know how hard it was to love you some days? Don't make this about you, she snapped. This wasn't your fault, but you sure didn't help. And that was her move, the guilt pivot. She couldn't just cheat. She had to make it my responsibility. You disappeared months ago, I said. You shut down. You locked your computer. You came home showered and smiling like you had a second life somewhere. And surprise, you did. She laughed. Not the laugh I used to love. This one was new. It was colder, quieter, like a snake hissing through lipstick. I didn't disappear, she said. I escaped. The guy behind her groaned and sat up slowly, finally finding the courage to speak again. He got the message, Lise, he muttered. Let it go. Lise. He called her Lise. Only one other person ever used that nickname, and it was buried with a box of old letters in her mother's attic. That was when I realized exactly who this man was. You're Derek, I said. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was confirmation. Derek, the old flame, the one she told me she blocked on everything years ago, the one who broke her heart in college and made her stronger. The one she once called a narcissistic parasite after a wine night rant. I still remember word for word. You went back to him? I said, voice cracking for the first time. She shrugged. He knows me better than you ever did. I nearly laughed. But it wasn't funny. It was tragic. Pitiful. She wasn't even hiding the affair. She was owning it like it was a brand deal. He thought he could fight me, Derek said, brushing himself off like I hadn't just bent him like wet cardboard. But I'm a BJJ brown belt. I don't lose easily. I turned to him slowly. You're already lost. You just don't know how deep yet. She grabbed her bag again and stood between us. You're not going to ruin this, she said. I finally did something for me. You were just a placeholder. I nodded slowly, absorbing the hit like ice water down my spine. No yelling, no pleading, just understanding. That was the moment my love for her died. You know what placeholders do? I asked. They move out of the way, but not before they make sure you remember why they were needed in the first place. Then I left, and I didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. You know that feeling when your body's exhausted but your mind's sprinting like it's being hunted? That was me. I sat on the edge of the bed we used to share, staring at the dent in her pillow. Everything smelled like her, like that new perfume she never wore for me. I didn't cry. I didn't throw things. I didn't even touch the whiskey bottle she gifted me last Christmas. Because you're finally adult enough to drink the good stuff. Instead, I did something worse. I started remembering. Not just the good moments, those come in clean little flashes you can shake off. No, the dangerous memories are the ones that didn't feel important at the time. The ones that slide under your skin years later and make you want to scream at your past self. Things like the time she came home late from a girls' night and showered before she even said hello. Or when she changed her lock screen to a picture of a beach. Just a beach. Said it was for peace. Said I wouldn't understand. I didn't, but I said it looked nice anyway. I remembered that time she left for a weekend yoga retreat and came back with a chipped tooth. Said she fell during a pose. I asked which pose. She said the twisty one. Then changed the subject. I started seeing the whole map of her lies. And I was the red pin at the center of it, blind and loyal. I couldn't stay in that house. Every wall was a photograph of the person I thought she was. I packed a bag by 6 a.m. Nothing major, just enough to disappear for a few days. I texted my manager. Family emergency. He replied with take care. That was the entire conversation. Bless remote work. On my way out, I did something I hadn't planned. I went to her laptop. It was still locked. But she'd made a mistake. She used the same password for years. Her high school mascot followed by her birth year. She used to say, if someone figures it out, they deserve to see my boring real estate spreadsheets. I typed it in. It worked. And what I found wasn't boring at all. She hadn't just been seeing Derek for a few weeks. This had been going on for over a year. Hidden folders, private emails, fake client appointments. She'd built an entire shadow life. Photos from hotel rooms. Selfies of her in outfits I never saw. Emails where she complained about me like I was a malfunctioning appliance. One message read, he's so predictable I could schedule my lies around his lunch breaks. But what stopped me cold was a draft email she never sent. Subject line, If he finds out. Inside. If it happens, I'll say he got aggressive. I'll say he scared me. Derek says people believe women first. That's my out. My hands went numb. Not just from rage. From the realization that this wasn't just cheating. This was planned sabotage. A nuclear exit strategy. I closed the laptop. Sat back. Stared at the ceiling for 20 minutes. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to disappear. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to take control one thread at a time. She didn't want a confrontation? Too bad. She wanted an easy exit? Not anymore. She ran back to her old flame. Thought he could protect her. But now I was awake. And I don't lose easily. I started with silence. That's what she wouldn't expect. Nothing. No rage texts. No half-drunk voicemails. No begging. No accusations. Just air. I disappeared from her radar like a ghost who finally stopped haunting his own house. I stayed at a friend's place, Travis, my college roommate. He still owed me rent from a semester he spent pretending to write a screenplay. I knew he'd give me the couch and ask no questions. When I showed up at his door at 7 a.m. with a duffel and dead eyes, all he said was, "You want coffee or quiet?" I chose both. By noon, she still hadn't messaged. Not even a "where are you?" That stung more than I wanted to admit. It meant she was already rewriting the story, casting me as the villain who left without warning. Probably telling Derek some sad version of events where I shut down emotionally and pushed her away. They always make themselves the heroine. They always need an audience. But I wasn't planning to give her more scenes. I opened a new email. Not for her. For me. Subject line. Document everything. I listed every lie I could remember. Dates. Names. Screenshots from her inbox. Her exact words. The draft email that nearly destroyed me. I backed it up in 3 different clouds. Sent copies to myself. Encrypted. Timestamped. Cold. I contacted a lawyer. Nothing messy. Just consultation. The guy had the kind of voice that made you think of mahogany desks and clean victories. He listened, took notes, and said, "If even half of what you're telling me is accurate, you've got leverage." I asked what that meant. He said, "It means if she wants out, she's not walking out with half. She's walking out with a suitcase and maybe an Uber voucher." It was the first thing that made me smile. I didn't respond to her until the next morning. 2 simple words. "We need to talk." 5 minutes later, she replied, "Now you care." I ignored that. Instead, I sent her a time and place, neutral ground. Not our house. Not the gym. Not Derek's lair. A cafe we used to go to when things were good. Public. Controlled. Familiar enough to disarm her. She showed up late. Of course she did. Sunglasses again. Tight jeans. That smug expression she wore like jewelry. She sat down across from me and looked around like she was waiting for someone else to show up. "This is dramatic," she said. "Did you want closure or just attention?" I slid my phone across the table. Unlocked. Opened to one of her emails to Derek. She stared. I watched the flicker. There it was. The moment she realized I'd seen everything. Her fingers twitched. "You went through my laptop?" "I went through the wreckage," I said. "You left it open when you blew the whole thing up." She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. Instead, she smiled. "That was always your problem," she said. "You think knowing the truth gives you power. It doesn't. It just makes you bitter." "No," I said. "You make me bitter. The truth just gave me clarity." She crossed her arms, eyes sharp now. "So what? You want to humiliate me? Post screenshots online? Call my parents?" "No," I said. "I want you to sign." I pulled out a folder. Inside, papers my lawyer had drafted. Fair but cold. Protective. Strategic. Her smirk cracked. "You already talked to a lawyer?" "I already moved on," I said. "This isn't a second chance. This is a clean exit." She didn't speak for a moment. Then she picked up the pen. But she didn't sign. She wrote something on the back of the last page. Folded it. Pushed it toward me. Got up. Walked out. I waited until she was gone before I opened it. 1 sentence. "You're not the only one who can play quiet." Whatever that meant, it wasn't over. But she'd just made a mistake. She thought this was still her game. She didn't know I had plans that I kept that note folded in my pocket like a slow poison. I read it once an hour for the next 3 days. I didn't reply. I didn't ask what she meant. I let her stew in her own cryptic threat, because silence isn't just absence. It's a weapon. While she played mystery, I kept moving. The lawyer tightened the documents, added language she wouldn't see coming. Non-disparagement clauses, asset protection measures, explicit division of liabilities. It wasn't just about keeping what was mine. It was about making sure she couldn't twist this, because that's what she did best. Bend truth until it cracked like glass under her heel. Then came the message. Midnight. Unblocked number. Can we talk? Just you and me. Not like this. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I typed back. 1 hour. Come alone. I sent her the address of a 24-hour diner just outside the city. Dim lights. Neutral turf. I sat in the booth farthest from the windows, facing the door. She walked in wearing all black like she was attending the funeral of her own loyalty. She slid into the booth across from me. No hello. I didn't sign, she said. I noticed. I'm not refusing, she added. I just think you're being impulsive. I laughed, loud enough to turn heads. Impulsive, I said. You lied to my face for over a year, carried on a full-blown affair, and wrote a draft email about framing me. And I'm the one being impulsive? She didn't flinch. That draft was insurance. You don't get to pretend you were a saint. No, I said. But I was real. And you were a performance. She leaned in. Derek thinks you're unstable. I smiled. I think Derek's still icing his ribs. Her eyes narrowed. This is going to get messy if you push me. And what happens if I push back? I said. Because I can, I've got copies, screenshots, dates. Do you want your company to find out you've been using client meetings as a cover for hotel visits? She sat back, silent. You're bluffing, she said, too fast. Try me. There it was again, that tiny twitch in her jaw. She hated losing control more than anything. And now she was cornered not by force but by facts. You're not going to win anything from this, she muttered. I already did, I said. You just haven't figured out what you lost yet. She stared at me, not with guilt, not even anger, but calculation. And that's when I knew. She wasn't done. This wasn't over. She didn't come to surrender. She came to plant something. She said slowly. Derek thinks you're watching us. He says you're obsessed. Paranoid. I told him you might follow us sometime. Did you tell him I found your lies by accident? I said. Or did you leave that part out? She smiled sweetly. You're not going to like what happens next, she said, standing. Neither are you, I replied. She walked out without a glance back. I didn't move, not for a long time, because I wasn't sure what she meant by next, but I had a feeling she'd already started it. And whatever it was, I'd be ready. She moved fast. By the end of the week, I was getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Coworkers, old friends, even my aunt in Florida who still sends me birthday cards with glitter glue. They all had some variation of the same confused concern. Hey, everything okay with you and her? She said you've been acting weird. Just heard something. Wanted to check on you. And then came the one that made my throat dry up. Hey man, she told me you got physical. That was it. No context. No question. Just accusation hanging in the air like smoke. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my phone. I picked it up and reread the text. Then I reread it again. And again. She was doing it. She was building the story. The draft email wasn't a backup plan. It was a blueprint. And now she was putting up the walls, decorating the inside, painting me in the corner like a violent lunatic with abandonment issues. I wasn't just the guy who got cheated on. I was becoming the threat in her script. I didn't go to work the next day. I stayed home, sat in front of my computer, and opened every folder, every file, every screenshot I'd saved. I started organizing them into a timeline, not for revenge, for survival. The version of me she was creating could ruin my life, so I built my defense like a fortress. Every time-stamped email, every photo, the draft, the date she booked a hotel while she was supposedly at her niece's recital, her geotagged Instagram post that didn't match her location, the gym's public schedule that proved it was closed the night she said she was working out late. But the hardest part? I had to contact someone I swore I'd never speak to again. Her sister, Natalie. She'd always been distant, suspicious of our marriage from day one. She used to call Melissa the actress when she thought I wasn't listening. So I sent her a message. Just a single screenshot. 10 minutes later, she called me. "What the hell is this?" she asked. "I need you to read it carefully," I said. "And I need you to know I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm asking you to see." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that shattered me. "She told us you were becoming dangerous. Said you broke her phone. Said you screamed at her in a parking lot." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so far from the truth it felt like satire. "Natalie," I said, "the only thing I broke was her fantasy of getting away clean." She didn't respond for a while. Then she said, "Send me everything." I did. All of it. Every file. Every note. Every ugly truth. And she believed me. She wasn't the kind of person to take action, but I knew she'd talk. And once one domino fell in Melissa's carefully built illusion, the rest would shake. The next morning, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was from Derek. "You think you're clever. You're not. You're done." No punctuation. No grammar. Just pure ego and threat. And right under it, an image. A photo. Me. Walking out of the diner where I met her. Taken from across the street. Blurry. Distant. But me. I stared at it. And all I could think was, she's trying to trap me. She's setting a stage. But she forgot one thing. I don't step onto someone else's stage. I build my own. And it was time for an audience. There's a different kind of clarity that sets in when you realize someone is actively trying to destroy your life. Not just hurt you. Not just lie to you. But erase you. Recast your image. Burn your reputation. Salt the earth behind you so nothing can grow. That photo Derek sent me, blurry as it was, wasn't a message. It was a warning. And warnings like that only get sent when someone's about to pull the trigger on something they think is irreversible. I wasn't scared. I was focused. First, I called the diner. Asked to speak with the manager. Told him I'd left my card there and needed to know if the security cameras were still active. He said yes. I said I'd be by within the hour. I didn't tell him I didn't care about a card. I wanted the footage. I wanted proof. Visual evidence that she came to me. That we spoke calmly. That I didn't raise my voice. That I didn't follow her. That I left alone. Because I knew what was coming. And I was right. 2 days later, a wellness officer knocked on my door. Polite. Friendly. Smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir," he said, "we received a concern from someone close to you. Said you've been exhibiting unstable behavior. Would you mind answering a few questions?" I nodded. Let him in. He looked around the apartment. Saw the notes. The files. The evidence. He asked if I owned any weapons. I said no. He asked if I'd had thoughts of harming myself or others. I said not until this moment, and even now only hypothetically. He laughed. But he didn't stop writing. Then he asked the real question. "Have you recently made any threats toward your wife or her associate?" There it was. Right there. I smiled. "Officer," I said, "I'm going to show you something. And when I'm done, I want your badge number. Not because I don't trust you, but because I want you to remember this moment when the lawsuit hits." I showed him the emails, the messages, the draft, then the footage. He sat with it longer than I expected. Read every line. Watched the grainy clip of me paying for coffee and walking out with a receipt. When it ended, he looked up at me. "She's trying to build a case," he said quietly. "She's building a fairy tale," I corrected. "And I'm about to rewrite the ending." He left with an apology. Said there would be no further action. Said if I needed to file a report, I had grounds. But I didn't file. Not yet. I wanted her to feel it first. The silence. The absence of control. The invisible pressure of a noose made of truth tightening every day. So I did something I knew she'd hear about. I went public. Not messy. Not vengeful. Just factual. A private post. Shared to a small circle of mutuals. No names. Just screenshots. Dates. Timelines. The outline of a story without the colors. People are curious creatures. They connect the dots even when you don't draw lines. It took less than 24 hours for the fallout to begin. I got a call from a mutual friend, Rachel. She sounded shaken. "She's spiraling," she said. "She called me crying. Said you're trying to ruin her." I didn't say anything. She said Derek's backing off. That he doesn't want to be part of drama. That hit different. Because Melissa didn't fear exposure. She feared abandonment. And I had just kicked out the foundation she stood on. The next day, she showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. Eyes red. Makeup smudged. Hair tied back like she'd aged 5 years in one. I opened the door but didn't move aside. "Why are you doing this to me?" she whispered. "To you?" I asked. "You burned the house down and are mad I didn't hand you the extinguisher." She looked past me into the apartment. "You told people." "I told the truth," I said. "I left the judgment to them." Tears fell. Real or not, I didn't care. "I just wanted to be free," she said. "You were," I replied. "You were so free you forgot what it cost." She stepped back. Then, without warning, she dropped the next bomb. "You think this is about Derek? It's not. There was someone else." My stomach flipped, but I kept my face cold. "Then you're dumber than I thought," I said. "Because now this just got bigger." She turned and walked away. And just like that, the story fractured again. The third player. Another layer. Another lie. But it didn't shake me. It made me sharper. Because now I wasn't dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with obsession. And she just made it personal again. I didn't sleep again. Not because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't. When she dropped that last bomb, there was someone else. I knew what she was trying to do. Shift the board. Introduce chaos. She wanted me off balance. Wanted me scrambling, trying to figure out who this someone else was while she slipped through another escape hatch. But what she didn't know, what she never saw coming, was that I'd already stopped playing defense. I spent that entire night tracking patterns. Her social media logins. Posts she liked. Geotags. Venmo history. Little things people forget are public. I saw payments labeled coffee and therapy sent to the same unknown account. Twice a week. Regular. Consistent. The name attached, John T. I remembered it. Barely. A guy from her old job. They'd worked a single project together maybe 2 years back. She called him a sad puppy in a blazer. Said he used to flirt, but he was harmless. Turns out harmless comes with a schedule. I didn't confront her. Not directly. I sent John a message instead. Polite. Simple. "You've been seeing my wife. I don't need the why. I need the when. You have one chance to tell the truth. Lie to me and I go nuclear." No response. So I made it easier for him. I sent a screenshot. One of the payments. His name in bold. Her message. "Thanks for earlier. You always make me feel safe." 5 minutes later, he replied. "It wasn't supposed to be anything serious. She said you were dangerous. She said you were controlling." I didn't know the full story until recently. I swear to you, I ended it when she started talking about leaving you and blaming you for stuff I'd never seen happen. I asked when the last time he saw her was. He said 3 weeks ago, right before the night she lied about the real estate gala. Clicked. She'd been cycling them. Derek, John, me, keeping each of us in orbit, feeding each man a different version of herself. All of us strung along like puppets. She didn't just cheat, she curated. Built individual relationships with lies that didn't even match. With Derek, she was the wounded romantic who needed saving. With John, she was the delicate victim escaping emotional abuse. With me, she was just gone. But something John said stuck. She started blaming you for stuff I'd never seen happen. She wasn't just preparing to leave. She was preparing a storyline, making sure every version of her breakup came with a villain. And I was always cast for the lead. I called my lawyer, told him everything. "Do I have enough to go full scorched earth?" I asked. He sighed, said, "Yes, but do you want to?" And that was the moment. That question. Did I want to? What did I want? Not revenge. Not anymore. I wanted freedom. Clean. Undeniable. I didn't want her looking back and thinking she still had claws in me. So I revised the documents one last time. No alimony. No shared assets. No narrative. Just facts. I had my lawyer email her directly. The subject line was brutal. "Your story ends here. Attached. A final offer. Take it, sign it, walk away. Or we go public." Legal. Official. She didn't reply. For a full day, nothing. Then Natalie texted me. She's panicking. She knows she lost. She's just trying to figure out how to make it seem like she chose to walk away. That was her final move. Pride. So I gave it to her. I had my lawyer draft a second version. Same deal. Just reframed. Subject line. Clean exit. As requested. It was a trick. A final illusion. Let her think she kept some dignity. Because the truth? She had nothing left to burn. And when the signed copy came back the next morning, PDF attached, signature scrawled like she was slashing paper, I felt nothing. No triumph. No pain. Just silence. The real kind. And that's when I knew. She'd lost. And I'd won without ever lifting my voice. The day after I got the signed documents, I went back to the house, not to stay, just to walk through it one last time. Like visiting the wreckage of a plane crash you somehow survived. I didn't bring boxes. Didn't bring a plan. I just walked through, touching nothing. It was haunting how intact everything looked. Like betrayal didn't leave physical evidence. Her mug still on the counter. Her slippers beside the couch. A framed photo of us on the hallway shelf. Her in a summer dress. Me smiling like I didn't know I was standing next to a storm. But there were differences if you knew where to look. She'd taken small things. Quiet, personal things. A specific scarf she never wore. That little leather-bound notebook she said was for quotes. The spare key from the junk drawer. All gone. Like she was trying to erase traces of herself without drawing attention to it. And then there was the envelope. It was on the bed. No name on the outside. Just sealed. Heavy. I opened it slowly, already expecting poison. Inside photos. Not of me. Not of Derek. Not of John. But of her. Dozens of printed selfies. Hotel room mirrors. Gym locker smirks. One in the car. Smudged lipstick. Pupils blown wide. She was cataloging her double life, archiving her own decay like a performance art project. And at the bottom, one handwritten note. They all thought they knew me. You just lasted the longest. No signature. No apology. Just that. I sat down on the edge of the bed and let out the breath I didn't know I'd been holding for months. It hit me then, not sadness. Not anger. Pity. She wasn't a monster. She was hollow. And she'd spent all her energy trying to fill herself with admiration, desire, conflict. Anything to make the echo stop. I took the photos and burned them in the fire pit out back. Watched her face melt into smoke. She'd built so many versions of herself for so many people. I doubted she even remembered who she started as. When I got back to Travis's place, I found one more message waiting. From Derek. She told me everything. You think you're the victim, but you're just another manipulator. I should have finished what I started. I stared at it for a long time. Then I sent one message back. You're welcome to try again. Bring your belt this time. No reply. That was the last I heard from him. John, to his credit, never messaged again. I think he realized the grenade he'd been juggling and decided to vanish before the pin flew out. As for her, she moved out of state within a week. A quiet relocation. No goodbyes. Just a name scrubbed from the mailbox and an empty driveway. But she didn't leave clean. Natalie kept in touch. Little updates casually dropped like breadcrumbs. She tried to spin it as you being emotionally abusive. No one bought it. She said Derek turned out to be boring. She's living with some guy who owns a vape shop now. Each one hit softer than the last. By the time Natalie said, she started seeing a therapist. I didn't feel anything. Not hope. Not schadenfreude. Just closure. Real closure. The kind you don't get from screaming matches or revenge. The kind you build yourself out of silence, strength, and survival. I didn't respond to Natalie's last text. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed. She ran back to her old flame. He thought he could fight me. But I'm a BJJ brown belt. I don't lose easily. The quiet that followed wasn't peace, it was reconstruction. You don't go through something like that and come out clean. You crawl out with parts of yourself scraped raw. You don't sleep the same. You don't trust the same. Even your laughter feels processed. But what you gain, if you survive it properly, is precision. You learn to separate noise from signal. You learn who shows up. You learn who stayed silent when you were bleeding. I started running again. Not for fitness. For clarity. Long miles. No music. just my thoughts stretching across pavement and time. The first week, I could barely finish 3. By week 4, I wasn't stopping at all. Pain gave way to rhythm, and rhythm gave way to something else, control. I deleted the last pictures of us. Not in rage, just necessity. She didn't deserve to be part of my future's background noise. Travis offered to throw a freedom party. I declined. Said I'd rather sit in a quiet bar with 1 good drink and 0 stories about fake friends and failed lovers. He joined anyway. We didn't talk about her. We didn't need to. He just said, "You look back." And maybe I started dating again, but on my terms. No illusions. No performances. Just truth. Brutal if necessary. Honesty as default, not defense. And slowly, the world rebalanced. People who had ghosted me during the chaos suddenly reappeared with weak smiles and late apologies. I didn't hold grudges, but I did keep receipts. That's another lesson. Don't forget who ran when the room caught fire. Melissa stayed gone. Word came here and there. She'd changed jobs, dyed her hair, started posting long captions about healing, but I didn't chase the details. Let her reinvent herself as many times as she needed. That's the thing about people like her. They live on borrowed masks, always one breath away from the next collapse. But me, I stayed, built something real. I didn't just survive her. I outlived her story. And I know there are people reading this right now wondering what they do in my shoes. So here's what I'll tell you. If something feels off, trust it. Don't explain it away. Don't wait for evidence that fits neatly in a frame. Don't think loyalty means silence. Don't confuse patience for weakness. Don't let someone write you into a role you didn't audition for. And if they come for you, armed with lies, backup stories, crocodile tears, don't swing wild. Be still. Gather facts. Protect yourself. Then strike. Smart. Clean. Quiet. Because some people win with drama. But others win with discipline. I'm not just the man she cheated on. I'm the man she couldn't destroy. And in the end, that's the only victory that matters.